All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the last week I have been watching a few minutes at a time of the American Experience, a great program on the public broadcasting station via YouTube here at the home office with your Pratte Pack about Walt Disney. And you know, when I think of Walt Disney, I obviously think of the AAA East Central folks, that I have been a member of that great organization for years, and also very honored to sit side by side with some incredible people for 25 years. And you know, we are celebrating 25 years of talking travel on the radio. So we're having a great time looking back. But you know, when I look back at the early days of this show, there has been no brand more important than Disney. They have been with us since day one, as has Marcy Dingfeld, a Beaver County native who happens to be celebrating her birthday today. So I was all ears on the fact that it was her birthday, and also a very special time in the history of Walt Disney, for many reasons, right? Obviously, watching his life over this 4-hour program over the last week, here's really what I take from it, is the fact that it was right after World War I, and he was returning, a veteran of this country, looking for some way to carve out his American dream. His roots from the home state where he was born, Missouri, exactly where my father was born, in a place called St. Joseph, Missouri, in the late 20s. Spent a lot of his youth in Kansas City, but then he set off for fame and fortune in places like New York and Los Angeles, and was an animator, a cartoonist, if you will. And in the early days, you know, people think of him as a Fortune 500 company, a brand, mega bucks, and success after success. Well, Walt Disney, even though that famous song, When You Wish Upon a Star, he made famous with that great character Jiminy Cricket, he wasn't a star that was born overnight. Many years of struggle and worry kept Walt Disney moving and driving forward. And yes, Steamboat Willie, Mickey Mouse got it going, but there were so many others. I mean, like Pinocchio, like Cinderella, and yes, Bambi, and so many more. Walt Disney had dream after dream after dream, and most of them he accomplished because of his drive. And if anybody understands a type A personality, I think just about any of those that you ask with AAA Central to describe me, that's what they will say. I have probably been there for every show, but maybe just a few. And one of those shows that I missed was because I was at Disney World with my children, Robbie and Eva, when they were much smaller. And to put it in perspective, my daughter Eva had just turned 6. We went for a nighttime swim, and her dad, wanting to give his only daughter everything, even the moon if I could have lassoed it, I decided to take her to see Cinderella's castle late at night, and we rented a cab, her in her wet bathing suit with about 3 or 4 beach towels keeping her warm. Off we went, with a number of treats in the back seat that we bought from a local service station, and a healthy tip to the cab driver. We finally made it under a beautiful starlit sky. And with that moon illuminating over the back of the castle, I simply said to Eva, "We have made it." And as I looked down, she was fast asleep in my arms. So there was one of the very first times that I started to understand Walt Disney, a man that I have idolized since watching him on that television screen every single Sunday night. A program that he really launched back in the 50s to get the money to build Disneyland. When once asked, "Would you like to be the president of the United States?" he said, "Well, why would I want to be the president when I'm the king of Disneyland?" Walt Disney, believe me, was a man that was really driven to do one thing: make America understand family and values. And even though he admitted he did things that, well, maybe Walt Disney, the person that people believed in, would not, such as smoke and drink. But see, my father did that. And he was an amazing man, and I feel the same way towards Walt Disney. And this incredible 4 hours, this American Experience on PBS, it showed everything about Walt Disney. And I'm sure there are a few things that maybe they didn't show. And as in everything, someone has a critic or two in their life. But I will never be a critic of Walt Disney for what he did. And even though he died, December 14th is when he went to sleep, 1965, and never woke again because of lung cancer. He continues to do things for family after family, generation after generation. And you know, when the ratings started to sag on the ABC version of his television show, he simply moved it to NBC. And isn't it ironic that he ended up that company, that brand, owning ABC, ESPN, and they're about ready to hopefully close the deal with 21st Century Fox. And yes, another century and still the Disney name. So, ladies and gentlemen, think AAA East Central for your next trip to Disney World, a place that even in 1965 he was already drafting designs for that park that would eventually open in the early 70s, and Epcot Center, and what Disney World meant. It was all about bringing all of those characters from the motion picture industry that people had seen for years, simply bring them to life. And he worked with great corporations of the time that were more than happy to be a part of him and what he was about, people like Ford and General Electric. Walt Disney always wanted the recognition, though, of the Academy, as in the Oscars. And you know, when he came out in the summer of 1964 with Mary Poppins, it was nominated for 13 Academy Awards, including, well, folks, the one that he really wanted, the Best Picture Award. So he always not only had, I believe, best pictures and entertainment and values in mind for families, but he also always put his best foot forward. So thank you, Mr. Disney. From that moment that I got to your incredible park in 07 and actually read your biography, I knew then, and I know today, why there's something special about you. And every time that Disney brand comes up, no matter where it is, even with Heffron Tillotson talking Wall Street news on Heffron Tillotson, Your Money and You, I think about that time with my daughter and how really the great thing about Walt Disney, long after his death, he keeps a little bit of that childhood alive in all of us. Remember, AAA East Central, celebrating 25 years of Talking Travel. We'll be back at it this Saturday at 11, KDKA Radio. Good afternoon.